Welcome to the Weakest Link. Any of the 9 people in the studio here today could win up to £10,000. They don't know each other. However, if they want the prize money, they'll have to work as a team. But 8 of them will leave with nothing, as round by round we lose the player voted the weakest link. Let's meet the team.
You know, this show is one of my favorites. You're probably wondering why I'm covering it if it's a good show. Well, it's not every day I get to cover a good game show, so... Today, we're actually going to cover a game show that I like for once. I know what you're thinking. This is weirdly off character for the channel. This guy usually only covers shows that make you want to tape 2 screaming babies to the side of your ears for relief. Well, as my therapist once told me, I can't focus on the negative all the time. So today, I'm going to review a show that I seem to binge watch throughout the latter half of 2024 and still get fucking recommendations on for YouTube. The show in question is The Weakest Link. Now, this show has different names depending on where you go. In English and most other countries, it's called The Weakest Link or similar translation. In Hispanophone countries like Mexico, Chile, and Spain, the show is called El Rival Más Débil, or The Weakest Rival. In Germany, the show is called Der Schwachste Fliegt, or The Weakest One Flies. For the sake of this video, if I mention a country's version of the show, I'll use it by the name it goes by. Also, for the sake of this video, I will be primarily covering the UK, US, Mexico, Hong Kong, Italy, and Australian versions of The Weakest Link, with other versions mentioned here or there. This will be important later. Anyways, let's talk about the show. The Weakest Link is a game show franchise that originated in the United Kingdom. First premiering on August 14th, 2000 on the BBC, the show has been adapted to over 40 countries, making it one of the largest game show franchises in the world. Initially, the show was hosted by Anne Robinson, whose no-nonsense attitude and stern demeanor gained her a reputation as one of the meanest hosts on television. Many international hosts, such as Shahja Morali of the Dutch version and Hülya Över Tanrıöver of the Turkish version, actually went to the UK to learn Anne Robinson's style of hosting. God, I might have botched that name. I'm sorry. The stern hosting style was actually a requirement from the BBC. On the Hong Kong version of The Weakest Link, otherwise known as Yat Bat Out Seo, the show initially had a negative reaction from the people of Hong Kong, who saw host Carol Chang's hosting style as very cold and confrontational. As a result of this, after the BBC left the TVB Jade studio where Yat Bat Out Seo was filmed, Carol Chang was more relaxed with the contestants. Anyway, let's discuss how this show works. In any given episode, anywhere from 5, as seen in a compressed Hungarian version of The Weakest Link, to as many as 9 people, as seen in, well, most versions of the show, who just met, team up to compete in a trivia-style show to win up to a grand prize of a total currency, i.e. £10,000, $1 million, 200,000 Mexican pesos, or 100,000 Australian dollars. The goal is to bank a certain target while answering questions, with each correct answer building the chain, and the chain would break for an incorrect answer. However, if they were to say bank at any moment, that money is saved. However, a new chain would start. While they compete as a team, one by one, a player from each team is voted off, until 2 remain, at which point they compete in a penalty shootout-style challenge for the prize pot. The show was a smash hit in the United Kingdom, airing for 17 years combined. Originally hosted by Anne Robinson, as previously mentioned, following a 2021 reboot, the show was then hosted by British comedian Romesh Ranganathan, who was notably more calmer and polite, but still carried an aura around him with sardonic, dry humor to show that, hey, I completely have not lost the touch of this show. The British version of the show still airs to this day. The Mexican version, otherwise known as El Rival Más Débil, also achieved moderate success, airing for 8 years combined. First airing from 2003 to 2009, the show is hosted by Montserrat Ontiveros, who is very similar to Anne Robinson in her mannerisms. Fun fact, Montserrat Ontiveros is actually my favorite host of The Weakest Link. Her jokes land well, and you know what? For the sake of padding out this video, I'll share a few of them. Subtitles will be provided below for those of us who, well, don't speak Spanish. Check this out.
Yolanda, ¿quién confunde el billar con el boliche? ¿Por qué, Aline?
Es que hice chuza y a ella le llegó la bola.
¿La del billar o la del boliche?
La del boliche.
¿En serio?
Porque hice chuza yo.
No, el tuyo nada más fue error. ¿Quién de ustedes cree que la fiebre del oro es cuando un perico tiene temperatura?
In 2013, the show is brought back and hosted by Lola Cortés. This version was less well received and was canceled after about only a year in 2014. You know what I say? If it's not broken, don't fucking fix it! The American version, while not as long-running as either the UK or the Mexican versions, still had some success, becoming a pop culture phenomenon during the original run. This show was initially hosted by Anne Robinson, making her the only host to work on multiple versions of the show. The original, while ambitious, ultimately ended up failing and was canceled after about a year. A syndicated version was later picked up and hosted by George Gray, the guy doing the announcer's work on The Price is Right, and that aired until 2003. Then in 2020, the show was picked up yet again, this time being hosted by Glee star Jane Lynch. This version is still airing on Fox, which, let me clarify, is where game shows go to die! Christ! What is it with Fox and killing game shows? It's like some sick fetish to them or some shit. But now, we get to the 3 versions that failed. Italy, Australia, and Hong Kong. I'll start with the Italian version, which is one of the shortest versions of the show. Titled Anello Debole, the show failed for a few reasons. According to a comment by YouTuber ZeroZone92, the show failed because 1. The rounds were too similar to each other. Italian game shows often have variety in their rounds, so they didn't like to see the same thing over and over again. 2. Initially, the host Enrico Papi is more known as a boisterous personality in Italy, so to see him being cold and rude towards the contestants was seen as strange. And 3. The show aired right after 9/11, and many Italians wanted more cheerful shows, like the Italian version of Name That Tune, also hosted by Enrico Papi. Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's in more game shows than Nikolai Fomenko, who, fittingly enough, also hosted The Weakest Link. So it was merely a case of wrong place, wrong time. The Australian version of the show was one of the many versions to have a revival in the 2020s. The original version of the show, hosted by Cornelia Francis, aired from 2001 to 2002. Viewer fatigue killed the show initially, as the original version aired twice a week, leading people to get tired of it very quickly. The reboot with Magnus Zubanski as the host aired from 2021 to 2022, and ultimately failed due to structural failures, a polarizing host that not many people were fans of, and annoying sound choices. We finally get to the Hong Kong version of the show, Yap Bat Out Seo, which was BBC's undoing. As mentioned previously, not many people within Hong Kong were fans of Carol Chang's hosting style. The BBC actually required the hosts to be stern disciplinarians, much like Anne Robinson. However, in some countries, this does not translate well. On the Hong Kong version, the BBC left after 5 episodes, allowing Carol Chang to become a nicer host. But what if I told you that there was a version of The Weakest Link that was never picked up? That is right. Brazil was originally supposed to have a version of The Weakest Link. Titled Poncho Fraco, the show is hosted by Fausto Silva. However, the BBC was unhappy with the pilot, causing it to never be picked up, and it is still lost to this day. Overall, while The Weakest Link is a good show, certain flaws within the show can cause it to fail. While I'm personally a big fan of the show, I can also see how it can fail. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. You've been watching the Duality Dustman YouTube channel. Goodbye.